Grown black folks talk. Stephanie Perry versus Tabitha Brown. Which one of them is right? Well, actually, they're both right about what they're right about. What you know is going to determine what side you can live on. I'm not saying who you side with in this argument that does not exist because Stephanie Perry reacted to Tabitha Brown, but they're not actually arguing with each other because both of them have better things to do. Stephanie Perry is getting ready to set up the next Exodus Summit next month, and Tabitha Brown is doing whatever Tabitha Brown does. Neither of them is impacting each other like that. But it is a controversy that Stephanie Perry reacted to, and I just sat here and I thought about this from the point of view of a 21-year entrepreneur who always had another job. Did not start the business to be a millionaire. I started my business because as a publisher, I know that if I publish something, ASCAP and all them that make sure you get your royalties, if you're just a self-published writer and you don't have a company, they keep half your royalties. That's how I started, y'all. I also knew from looking at having done my research, being a journalist by inclination, that was my job, did my research. 90% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. And if you do not report a profit for people to tax, they class you as a hobby, meaning you lose all the tax advantages of having a business, meaning if you have to now not be taxed on your gross entirely, you're going to not have much money left to work with if you have a small gross and you can't charge off your expenses. You're going to go even deeper in the hole by the time you get finished with your taxes. So your business is probably already in a hole and you can't charge off your expenses. Situations to be avoided. I also knew that I didn't know enough about how to run a business to be able to do that. So I got the job and I got the business at the same time. Praise and Pilgrim's Music has outlived the job. That newspaper is no longer there. It was absorbed into the bigger newspaper group that bought it. That happens sometimes. But I also at that time read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's Sharon Lecter. Now you got to cite both of them. That was a court case. She did a lot of work for that book. Somehow she didn't get credited. She sued. Whole situation. We can talk about skills in a little bit. But the cash flow quadrant is something that I learned about from Robert and Sharon. There's a division. And on one side of this division are all the people who trade their time for money. Employees, E, and self-employed, S. ES are the two sides of this quadrant. And the thing about them is that they know how to trade their time for money, their personal labor for money. The challenge of this becomes, and if you listen to Stephanie Perry, Adelia Borshade, Rashida Dow, Heal with Marissa Price, Lifting as We Climb, the anti-HR lady, what you find out is that these jobs are not, what did Stephanie say? These jobs ain't loyal. So they don't care that you're a human being. You cannot work all the time. You have other human beings at different parts of your life you may need to take care of. You may need to be taken care of. You have to rest from it. And you don't make money on this side of the quadrant if you are not doing labor for yourself or for someone else. So in those senses, those two are the same trick bag, just different versions of it. Self-employed actually means you have even less of a safety net since there's no system of a job behind you. And so when I started out, because of the way I started out 21 years ago, it just occurred to me, it never would have occurred to me to not have the money that came from the job to be able to do the fundamental things that went to working the business, making sure I was positioned correctly so I could receive all of my royalties. What is it? Pam Esquire, the law intellect said, I need all of my money. But the reality of being self-employed was still there. It is a tremendous learning curve. There are things I can do today and talk about today that I wasn't able to talk about at age 24. What, 23? It's 2004. There are a lot of things I know today I didn't know then. Didn't know them in the first 5 years because there was no mentor. So you have to learn all this on your own. It's a lot easier today because we have so much on the internet, but even with the internet, that is already moving you across the quadrant to the other side. So we start over here, we're going over there. And the other side, B businesses and I investing. B businesses tap into and build their own systems, and I investing taps into existing systems and invests in them running well. They don't trade time for money. They trade knowledge of systems for money. And with the internet businesses kind of fall somewhere here in the middle. So we're not adjusting his quadrant. And then Stephanie Perry has given you a third way, which you still are plugging into existing systems. House sitting, trusted house sitters. Uh, that's another way of plugging into an existing city system providing services for people. So you're plugging into it, that's close to the B quadrant, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of money. Bopping around as the digital nomad. You're basically an employee abroad. That's basically still in the E quadrant, but because you're plugging into different systems on how to do this, that actually puts you in the S quadrant, but the S quadrant with the addition of the knowledge that Stephanie gives you to be able to control this remotely. So even though Stephanie Perry is going to show you how to do this anywhere in the world or nowhere in the world, you're still in the quadrant somewhere. You just can do it with a whole lot of location and time freedom. So you're no longer having to trade as much time for money because you have figured out how to do it remotely. And if you learn investment on top of this, you would truly be in a situation after a while that your investments provided you the money that you needed. So eventually you can work. And by the way, Stephanie Perry does one side of that. And although I am not a financial advisor, I did bother to write down what I know about this to help you get the money together using crypto cycles. Also, there's other cyclical assets. I just wrote down what I happen to know in order to help you consider your journey into investment so that money can work for you, so that other businesses that are running well and other projects that are running well can work for you. But if you do not know how to do anything like that and you are not willing to learn, if you are not listening to Stephanie Perry and you're not taking her how to get your first three clients, how to start your YouTube channel challenges, if you're not willing to learn up and skill up, what is it? And read up, is confidence with love on what Auntie is always saying. Then Tabitha Brown is right. Because of all you know are the skills that go with being on this side of this side. No, I got it confused now. If you all you know is being an employee and all you have is the kind of skills that go with that, and the only thing you really understand is trading your time and labor for money, then your Tabitha Brown is right. You do need to go get another job. Because the minute that you don't, you're going to have to learn a whole lot of new skills that you don't have right away. And those skills are not necessarily going to pay you that steady paycheck in 2 weeks. There's other things to consider. Then you have people like Alicia Release the Artist, and a couple other channels of off-grid black girls talking about how you can do this better. And actually, Stephanie Perry talks about too, decluttering. Size down your life, size down your consumer habits, and you will need less money so that you're not constantly sitting there with that pressure of needing a check every 2 weeks just to stay ahead. But see, this requires different things for you to learn. This requires you learning about your identities is not going to depend on how well you're doing as an American consumer. I teach you this if you're a Christian. Your identity is in Christ. So you do not need the identity of mortal men with their greed and status and comparison. Confidence with Love teaches this beginning from the self-confidence course for black women. But if you continue to follow her down the road, what she's going to teach you is that if you're a black woman, you're in the image of the great black mother, who is the mother of all. So why would you even lower yourself? If you are listening to Stephanie Perry or Alicia Release the Artist, you learn that your value is in your humanity. Stephanie falls, Alicia falls somewhere between Stephanie and I, somewhere in there on that spectrum. There's a bunch of people who are going to teach you very different things that let you know, particularly as black women, your value doesn't belong to how much money you make in the system. Now, obviously, I'm a Christian. So I tell every man, woman, boy, and girl the same thing. God made a plan for you to be redeemed in Christ. You can check out, you can live, what's the term, in the world, but not of the world, is what I talk about a lot. So you're not chasing mankind's significance. You're not living for the love of money. You don't have to do any of that once you know who Christ is and how much he loves you and cares for you, and redeemed you for all eternity, and has said that everything you need, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things that you need, which are defined food, clothing, and shelter, will be added to you. Once you learn, what does it say in Hebrews 13:5? And be content with such things as you have, for he hath said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Once you learn how to do that, then you don't have to be tyrannized and chased around and always need to be depending on someone else to put more into you so you can spend it right back out. If you are not a Christian, you can look at common grace. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you're in this world to do, you'll be provided for to do that. One of the things that you're not going to be able to do, though, is chase down everything that American consumerism is telling you that you need. But all this that I'm discussing is really learning how to live a different kind of life. If you're not willing to do that, it doesn't help you to be mad at Tabitha Brown. There's a lot that Tabitha Brown doesn't cover. But if you don't want to learn how to live differently than how you're living now, you just think that somehow owning a business is going to give you a way that is less painful to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. If you live in comparing yourself and contrasting yourself to other people for self-image, Tabitha Brown is right. You probably need to go ahead and get a job because you're not yet developing in a direction that's going to let you successfully do the things that Stephanie Perry is talking about, the things that Confidence with Love is talking about, or even the things that I talk about. I am incredibly grateful to God. You know, the point of this book was, and still is, I'm incredibly grateful to God that I was allowed to give other people the opportunity so I wouldn't have to profit from the crypto bull run by myself. That was the point. But you know what I couldn't control? I couldn't control whether or not people were willing to read it and apply it and live a different kind of life. Whether they were going to develop the patience, the grit, the patience, because people were telling me, I had all I know about it, such and so, I don't trust none of that. Well, and also not willing to learn. Well, some people, since that book was written, have 6 times their money. Other people are still asking if they should invest in Bitcoin. What are you willing to learn and what are you willing to apply? If you're not willing to learn and apply the skills that go with the kind of life Stephanie Perry says you can live, and Alicia Release says you can live, and that I say you can live, and that Confidence but Love say you can live. Listen, I'm in vetting 102 still. Ugh. I consider myself a reasonably intelligent person. Ugh. The mind-blowingness of that course. But I'm not only having to vet people, but whole activities and whole segments of communities now to be able to have some peace to do the things that I'm capable of doing. When you get into that course, you're gonna learn about people that's operant in classical conditioning and what people are constantly trying to run on you to keep you just working for them, giving them your time and labor for nothing. That was vetting 101. Vetting 102 is on an even higher mind blowing level. I'm still working on that, but I'll be a graduate of all 3 of 4 courses when I'm done. And when you've done that, you're gonna look at the world differently than you did before. You may not choose to become in relationship with the ancient goddesses that she's in relationship with. It's not necessary for you to convert to get the benefit of it. As a Christian, I'm certainly not doing that. But in terms of how you look at the world and how the world treats you as a black person, the fact that a black woman, excuse me, I am not gonna have Confident Love slapping me up. Black woman. She's very specific about who she put that course for. Once you look at the world differently, then you understand that you can move and operate in a much more powerful way than what you've been told. But that's a choice. And if you're not willing to make the choices necessary to get to the way Stephanie Perry does business, if you're not necessary to make the investment in yourself necessary to get to the way Stephanie Perry and Confidence with Love and Heal with Marissa Price and the anti-HR lady and Lifting as We Climb consulting services and Black Girl Stocks and so many others, and yours truly, DMD Matthews. If you're not willing to make that investment, get another job so you do not starve to death. This is also why, and the fact that there may not be any other jobs. 300,000 black women have been there. Are 18 to 21 million of us. That's not even 2%. That has nothing to do with whether or not you're going to be able to get a job. Now, do you want that job? We understand about the toxicity. But what I'm saying to you is, no, you don't have to do that. Tabitha Brown is right about what Tabitha Brown is right about. If you just want to know how to trade your personal time and labor for money, and the only choice you have is employment and self-employment, well, get a job. She's right. But if you're willing to learn other skills, then all the other things that Stephanie Perry offers and the things that the circle of women who are around her offer are available to you. But that's your choice. Tabitha Brown was not lying. She was telling the truth. Let me also say this in closing. So many people attacked her because she retired her husband, a police officer that she didn't want to see, had her heart in her throat every time he went to work, and she didn't want him to be in that situation anymore. So many people attacked her because of her tone. She can't help that she has an accent of a class and southern auntie and just authenticity. That's the way she speaks, baby. It's not personal to her. It's not personal to you. It has nothing to do with you. That's just authentically who she is. That's who my grandmother was. I have to really concentrate to imitate that, but that's just authentically how she talks. Her message was for those who can receive it. If you don't feel like you should receive it, okay. But let me tell you something. The truth is, and it doesn't matter what the tone is, the truth is, if you are not willing to put in the labor to live a different kind of life so that you don't need to be self-employed or employed, or at least can have access to other things, the truth is, if you don't skill up, that's where you're going to be stuck. And then when both of those fall apart in economic collapse, then it's going to depend on whether you have networked with people who know how to live a different life anyhow. I have been saying to you for multiple years, get your lives together. Auntie Love and I started reading Project 2025 in 2023, the same time I was writing my book. We have been saying for a year and a half, now 2 years, get your life together. Because what you count on being here, if these people do what they are telling us they're going to do, none of that is going to be here to support you by 2025. Well, Confidence with Love's delivery is uh she puts up a trigger warning. You gonna get all the adult language. She uses profanity on purpose. I don't use the profanity just because why? Because I have control of my tone. I can terrify you at will. Because I got the voice to do that. On purpose or not on purpose. But the thing about it is, if Confidence with Love tells you that on page, I forget right now, we went through conflict, we went through, where there's a page, is it page 4 or page 40, where people are blaming the fact that the country has 40% of the mothers are single mothers on 7% of the population, which would be black women. If there is such a page and you go in there and you look, it doesn't matter if you didn't like all the language that Confidence with Love used to deliver you that information. She still be right because we both saw it. You have to learn to discern the truth no matter what the tone is. Now, don't get me wrong. Someone with a voice like mine, I have to be careful because I realize that voices and tones have a tremendous emotional reaction. And if we have been through trauma, we have triggers. I told you Confidence Love runs a trigger warning. There's going to be adult language in situations. There may be language involving violence. In fact, I can almost guarantee, because, she going to talk about, look, you roll up on me, the only phone number I'm not dialing 911. I'm dialing 9MM 380. There's two dark sisters, and I heard that there was baby girl involved. So I'm just telling y'all. Everybody ain't gonna communicate it to you sweet. But content creator Fumi Desaluvold, who is one of the most gracious individuals I have ever encountered online, one of the most gracious African women. I mean, just like everything you would want to believe about Mother Africa is Fumi Desaluvold. She said we should always treat people with grace, and at the same time, sometimes we have to eat humble pie, and it's very hard. She had an idea for a business and did not even want to do YouTube, but ended up doing retail work. And how she learned how to do that retail work, she ended up rolling it back into what she eventually went and did with YouTube and her own businesses. So it was necessary for her to go get that job. It was part of her development. And as it happens, Robert Kiyosaki says, get jobs to get skills that you need to build your own business. And Sharon Lecter helped him write that up. You also can meet skilled individuals who can do what you can't do. I'm a much better business person today because I understand how systems work and how other people work. Didn't know any of that back then. Also learned about dysfunctional situations because of some of the people I work with. Didn't know that at the beginning. Know who to hire, who to fire. Now I know. Hate firing folk, but I'm good at it. Much more enjoy bringing people in. Much more. Well, some of the things I love is, we have vendors coming in doing work for senior housing board that I'm part of, and just being able to commend folks for a job well done. I love that. One of them sat down and asked me, it's like, well, yeah, you don't bite. I said, well, since the such and so and so was on doing what they were supposed to do, I don't bite today. You do have to keep people on their toes. But I must prefer, because the most important thing that you need to know about going into business for yourself really is your business is going to rise or fall based on treatment of people. So I'm not saying tone doesn't count, because with a big voice like mine, yeah, it does. Definitely does. But I've also learned, like Fumi Desalu said, wonderful channel, by the way. Sometimes you just have to eat some humble pie. I've talked on this channel about how the pride and ego of black men is becoming their downfall. Basketball player Kawhi Leonard just got banned from the NBA yesterday, but they ain't doing nothing to the white owner yet. The whole idea that you think you can get away with stuff, that just because someone else got away with it, is just destroying black men left and right. But listen, folks. Now, Stephanie Perry says humility is not for black women. Okay, well, to the extent that being humbled and humiliated by other people. But that's where Stephanie Perry and I disagree. Just because if the creator of the universe has said humility is for everyone, and if even Jesus Christ walked in humility, you're going to set yourself up against God with that attitude. But let's define our terms. Realizing that you still have things you need to learn if you want to better your situation is a form of self-chosen humility. Pride does not care whether you're a black man or a black woman. It doesn't. Pride goes before destruction. So if you put yourself into a situation where you're too proud to go back and get a job when you really need one, or you're too proud to learn some new skills so you can move into the different realms that Stephanie Perry is talking about, you are going to fall. Tabitha Brown is right about what Tabitha Brown is right about, and Stephanie Perry is right about what Stephanie Perry is right about. It's up to you what you can make work for you. If you want to have more options than Tabitha Brown can talk to you about, then you've got to be able to skill up, learn up, read up, and get ready. It's up to you. Not up to Miss Brown or even up to Miss Perry. It's up to you. I've been saying it for a while. I'm going to keep my tone very gentle. Don't waste any more time being mad at Tabitha Brown if you are. Get your life together. Bye.